Tarkov is a heavily CPU bound game. If your graphics card isn't being used, your game is going to feel worse even at high FPS. This is exactly why you don't want to run everything on low. It's not as simple as a competitive esport title like Valorant, where you basically almost always want everything on low. For Tarkov, we kind of have to find a balance, and it is going to depend on your computer. If you're not interested in messing with anything and you just want in-game settings, you can go ahead and skip to this part. I have each tier labeled out. You can just copy and paste the settings and go from there. Before we even touch settings, if your system isn't set up properly, none of this really matters. So we're going to make sure that our BIOS is up to date. Especially I found on AMD, it can help with X3D CPUs for stability and performance. We want to make sure that our RAM is running at its full speed. So for Intel, you're going to want to turn XMP on, and for AMD, you're going to want to turn EXPO on. Now, there will probably be different profiles, so you'll have to check your RAM configuration and see what works best for you. Also, install your latest CPU chipset drivers. This is going to help with scheduling and stability. Update your graphics drivers or roll back if a new one causes issues. We can also make sure that you're on high performance or balanced for Windows power settings and NVIDIA control panel settings. In your BIOS, there's a few other settings we can look at, which is enable ReBAR and enabling above 4G decoding. There's so much more that I could get into, as well as like X3D turbo mode and using process lasso. But I think maybe you guys can subscribe. Let me know down in the comments down below if that's something you'd like to hear about. I just wanted to say thank you guys for the support. We just hit 500 subs on the channel. And to kind of celebrate, I'm going to do a giveaway at 750, and we're going to give away a copy of Escape from Tarkov. So make sure to stay tuned for that. Okay, now that we're done with all the preliminary stuffings, we can actually get to the settings that matter. Before we get into your specific PC tier, you need to understand the tools that you have, because AMD and NVIDIA are slightly different. For AMD, we have FSR, fluid frames, and FreeSync. And for NVIDIA, there's DLSS, smooth motion, and G-Sync. Now let's take a look at FSR and DLSS. They kind of do the same thing. They lower internal resolution to give you more FPS. These are great tools to use when your graphics card is struggling to keep up. Next is frame generation. Fluid frames and smooth motion generate extra frames in between real ones. This makes the game look smoother, but it does add latency, so that's something to keep in mind. Also, I believe this is only available for the newest AMD graphics cards, and for NVIDIA, it's available for 4000 and 5000 series. If you don't have one of these cards, there is an application you can get. It's called lossless scaling, and it has some tools in it. I've actually made a video on it, and it might help you out if you're heavily GPU bottlenecked. Next is FreeSync and G-Sync. These sync your FPS with your monitor to reduce tearing. If you're willing to cap your FPS, these should almost always be on. The most important disclaimer I can give you here is do not stack upscaling and frame generation blindly. You can try running both, but I'd recommend testing them separately. If you stack them, you're layering artificial frames on top of each other, and it can hurt frame pacing and just feel worse overall. Now that you know what these settings do, let's get into what you should run depending on your PC. If you're on a card with 6 GB of VRAM or lower, I think this is a decent template to start with. I would be testing with DLSS, FSR, smooth motion, AMD fluid frames, or other settings to kind of see where you can find a balance of quality and performance. For something like a 3060 or 3070 in that performance range, this is where I would start with and adjust accordingly as before. We're going to be bumping up textures to medium. I'm also going to TAA high, increasing visibility a bit, and pretty much going from there. Now going one step up, maybe to something like a 4070, 3080, 7800 XT or along those lines. This is where I would go. We're going to be cranking the texture all the way up to high. We still have LOD on 2.5, visibility on 3000, TAA high. For the high-end builds, we're talking 5070 Ti, 4080, 9070 XT, or anything better. Here we can see texture qualities going up to ultra. Also on this build, I'm not using any smooth motion, any AMD fluid frames, no DLSS, just pure hardware because it's already strong enough, and adding extra processing can actually just make the game feel worse. If you want to go a step further, you can try forcing Tarkov to use physical cores only. I did a video on this, which is my SMT on versus off video. Another thing I found is you basically always want to be on max FOV unless you prefer otherwise from like a performance perspective. For the physical cores only setting, you can mess around with this. I would just test one RAID with it on, one RAID with it off. Kind of depends on your CPU. See which one runs better. If your game feels bad, even at high FPS, probably not your FPS, I would say it is your frame pacing. So what we're gonna do is we're not gonna cap in-game, we're gonna use RTSS or NVIDIA control panel, and we're gonna cap a few frames under our refresh rate or towards our average FPS, and we're gonna use G-Sync and V-Sync or FreeSync and V-Sync. Made a full video breaking this down, but this alone will fix a lot of stuttering, at least it did for me. Now, last video, I told you guys to comment down below your system and I was gonna help you figure out what settings to run. I'm hoping this video helps even more people out. Now, I want you guys to comment down below, is there anything else that you're interested in learning about for Tarkov or performance? And if you're having any stutters or major issues with your computer, go ahead and let me know down below and I'll try my best to help you out. I'll catch y'all in the next one. Peace.